Hey, Allison Verhalen here, and today I am here for this week's Marketing Monday talking about generative AI in Google search results because that's what everyone is talking about these days. So let's get into it. If you are not familiar with me and what I do and what I talk about, especially when it comes to AI, I do always put generative in quotes, air quotes when I'm talking, regular quotes when I'm writing, just because, to be clear, AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever AI you're talking about, they don't really generate anything. To me, in order to generate something, it has to be something new, something original. They don't do that. They just kind of scrape the internet for existing content and repurpose it for you and go, here you go. Is this what you wanted? And if it is, great. And if it's not, you go, huh? Where did you come up with that? So Google, surprise, surprise, has started doing this, where they took Gemini and started incorporating it into Google, into the answers that you get on Google. They were, I was looking through their announcement because they've been making a big deal about this over the past couple of weeks. So I'm like, okay, I need to talk about this on my blog and my vlog. So they were like, let AI do the searching for you. I was like, isn't that what you've been doing for the past 26 years? So I don't have to go to if I want to look up something about, like, can I give this food to my dog? Is this allowed? I don't have to search through every single veterinarian website ever. I just use Google and have you do the searching for me and then tell me the answer. So the difference is that previously and still, you get a bunch of links that you then have to click through to get your answer. Now there's this section, this AI section of generated AI content that produces a bunch of content for you and goes, here's your answer. Very similar to the featured snippet, to the point where I'm like, is this significantly different from the featured snippet that we've been getting? So if you're not familiar with the way the featured snippet works, it used to be, and again, it still is, depending on the question that you're asking, it can be kind of an introduction to a piece of content that you can then click through, but you see a block of content that exists on that website without ever leaving Google. And frequently, I mean, when featured snippets started, that was a great way to get links to your website, because it not only was it at the top of Google search results, but it was prominently displayed. It took up a lot of space on the screen compared to the rest of the links that you would see. You would have to scroll down and guess as to whether the other content was relevant and whether or not you wanted to click through to those things. So that is something to keep in mind. Then as it got along, especially if you were asking specific questions like how many teaspoons in a tablespoon? By the way, the answer is 3. But if you didn't know that and you wanted to Google it, it would just pop up with a bit of content that would have the link where it was getting that information from, but it would prominently display the answer for you. This is what they call their 0-click results. Their goal was to keep you on Google so you wouldn't click to someone else's website, which I know we are used to seeing that on social media. Not used to seeing that on Google so much, but they started doing this where it's like, hey, if we can give you the answer really quick without having you click through to the website, why don't we just do that? And yeah, there are times where that is super convenient as the searcher, right? Because if I'm looking that up, I don't necessarily want to read a whole blog post about the history of measurements, right? For baking and cooking and whatnot. I just need to know, if I'm dividing a tablespoon into halves or thirds or whatever, how many teaspoons is that, or half teaspoons or whatever. So that makes sense. So it seems like this is just like the next stage of that, because it is longer. The AI content that you get is longer, but unlike ChatGPT, and this is something I like about this relative to ChatGPT. First of all, ChatGPT is not a search engine. It was not designed to be a search engine. That's not what it was created for. So, I mean, as always, you give people a tool, people are going to use it how they're going to use it. The problem with that is how often ChatGPT is wrong. How often Gemini is wrong? Yet to be determined. I don't think I've seen any tests on that, any studies done yet. I'm sure they're coming. It's not always right. So we will get into that. But what I like about this AI feature is that at the bottom, you have these links. So it goes, if you want more information on this, if you want to double check our research, which you should, here are some links you can follow. So unlike ChatGPT, where you have no idea where they're getting the information from, you can actually click through and make sure that these sources know what they're talking about. That being said, if you have not already heard of some of the more extreme, ridiculous ways in which Google's new feature is wrong. Now, again, I do want to put the caveat that when you see this show up, anytime you're searching for something, you see this AI section, it does have a little disclaimer at the bottom saying this is in beta mode. We're still testing. Yes, they've heard about these famous, hilarious mess ups. They are working on fixing the bugs. Whether or not they will ever be completely successful in entirely eliminating these bugs has yet to be determined, but they are working on it. So for now, we see things like someone asked about, what are some strategies for making sure the cheese doesn't fall off of my pizza, and Google's AI was like, oh, well, just use glue. What? Turned out that came from a Reddit post that was clearly meant to be a joke. AI is either not any human clicking through and looking into the context of that could know by context that it was a joke, not to mention the fact that we know we can't eat glue. So obviously the person writing that hopefully wasn't serious. But you can go through and click and see through and look at the content and go, oh, this is clearly a joke. I get it. AI doesn't get humor. Either doesn't understand context, doesn't know how to figure out in context whether is someone is serious or not, or is just not interested in context. Just looks at this at a piece of content and goes, "Hey, they're talking about what this searcher over here is asking about, and therefore it must be relevant. So that's what I'm going to tell my searcher over here," having no clue how wrong it is. So context is one. Humor is a big issue. The other problem is that we have gotten so into, it's a good example. We know about all of these things that we know we can't eat glue. That is so obvious to us that when we think about teaching someone about how humans work, we don't even think to tell them, hey, humans can't eat glue. We just assume they'll figure it out from context by scraping the internet. Apparently that did not work because it did not figure out that humans can't eat glue. It did not have the discernment to say this is a joke, even to say this is false, this person is wrong, this piece of content is wrong. No discernment, because it does not have that base knowledge of humans cannot eat glue. So that is a big problem with AI now, is that humans have yet to figure out that we need to explain to them, to these AI systems, some of the basics of things that we assume, we intuit, because they're so obvious to us. They are part of our knowledge base. They are not part of AI's knowledge base. So that is the problem that we get into, that AI gets into. But why is Google doing this? Like I said, ChatGPT has been used as a search engine, for better or worse. I would like to see how many times. We all know about Google providing wrong information. We all make jokes about Dr. Google, right? And how questionable that information is. So again, this is nothing new. But it can be dangerous, right? So someone getting this answer about using glue to keep cheese on pizza, obviously they're not going to follow that advice, hopefully. But it could just as easily give really dangerous recommendations on how to lose weight. And if someone doesn't know about nutrition and a healthy way to lose weight, and they take that information at face value, that could be really dangerous. So always take everything you see online with a grain of salt. That's just a general recommendation that I hope we all follow anyway. But especially when it comes to AI, make sure there's a big grain of salt that you're taking it with, because you just don't know. Most of the time, you don't know where that information is coming from. Do click through those results. The links that you're getting at the bottom of the AI, click through to see where that information is coming from. I have done that all the time when I search. I was searching something health related once recently. It's getting hot here in Chicago. It's June 16th as I'm recording this. It's 92 degrees outside according to my computer, which is hot for us. So the AC is going. I was talking to some friends a week or two ago about the theory that drinking hot liquids when it's hot out can actually help cool you off. And we were like, does that really work? How does it work? So I did some research to see if it works and also how it works. And so I looked, and I didn't take the first answer I got at face value. I looked through at least 3 or 4 different resources before making sure that they all agreed, and they were all like, yes, this is how it works. It does not always work. Sometimes it works, but not always. So I wanted to see how and why that was. And once I got a bunch of answers that all provided the same answer, I was like, okay, good. I feel confident this is the right answer. Another example was looking up information on my dog. I wanted to see how frequently I should be bathing my husky. Again, looked through, I think I found like 4 or 5 different responses that all gave me the same answer. And the 5th or 6th one was like way off base, very different information that it was giving me. Because the first, 4 or 5 that I found all agreed with each other, I was more inclined to believe them. But also, one of the answers was that agreed with one of the consensus answers was provided by a veterinarian. And I was able to click through to the website and see that this is a veterinarian who's providing this information. I'm going to believe what she says over any, random person on the internet who I don't know what their credentials are. They may or may not know what they're talking about. So Google, and I've talked about this a lot, Google does try to determine whether or not you're an authority in your industry as a ranking factor. It's not a huge ranking factor. It's probably 5th or 6th on the list. And, again, the ways that it determines that are also questionable, but it doesn't seem like this AI has a way to vet the sources that it's getting its information from, especially if it's using Reddit, which, anyone can put whatever on Reddit. So that is something to think about. So that's it. That is what I have to say about Google's generative AI and their Google search results. If you have any other questions about this or anything else related to SEO, content marketing, you can find me here. You can find me over at my website, AV as in my initials, Allison Verhalen. That is avwritingservices.com. And you can reach me directly by shooting me an email at info@avwritingservices.com. That's it. Have a great week and happy blogging, everyone.